Welcome to the Chaos Sector. In today's episode, we address the claims from several audience members that the vehicle spotted in the gas station surveillance is not a Hyundai Elantra. Always fun to take on the challenge, so let's jump right in. Some have claimed the vehicle is actually a Toyota Prius. So let's just go ahead and examine. Placing both vehicles over the screenshot, we will try to figure out which one resembles it the most. Keep in mind, the angle of the photos of each vehicle won't be as accurate due to the screenshot's angle. Okay, let's get started. Examining both body types compared to the vehicle in the screenshot, it's not easy to tell which one it would be, so we break down significant differences in style. The Hyundai Elantra's front face is a bit smoother, the headlights are sleeker, with the intercooler region being a bit slimmer. The Toyota Prius's front face is a bit more compact, box-shaped. The headlights are bigger, with the intercooler region being a bit larger. Examining the vehicle in the screenshot, well, it's very blurry to determine which front face matches. I will say the headlights do resemble the Prius a bit more, but the intercooler region resembles the Elantra more. Yet due to the blur of the screenshot, it's hard to distinguish either way. Next, we examine the front hood area of each vehicle. Now, this was one of the problems in the screenshot. The cell phone's camera is covering that area of the vehicle. And to add, how is that even possible? How is the cell phone's camera covering the screenshot of the video? And if you look closely, it's actually a bit transparent on top of the screenshot. Let's go back to the original. Well, not really, but let's go back to the screenshot without our color edit. As you examine, the camera appears to be in two physical places at once, meaning it appears to be a part of the physical footage, like the edges of the camera are smudged, which make it appear to be merged into the physical footage, and also appears to be, well, obviously a part of the phone it's taking a screenshot from. You see the problem? Some claim the clerk simply took a screenshot of the monitor, displaying the surveillance through a window. First off, why would they take a screenshot of the monitor through the window when they could simply take the screenshot from within the store, in the office, physically standing right in front of the damn monitor? Mind you, for this to occur, they would be standing outside of the store with the surveillance footage being played inside the store on the monitor. And they would feel that's the best way to submit video footage to the authorities instead of just standing right in front of the monitor in the office. We went over this already, but if you look closely to the left side, it appears to be someone standing inside the store. And that is not a screenshot of the monitor from outside through the window, my friends. Because that device is a cell phone. Oh my days, this is not what happened. Second, you see the two fingers on the right side? This obviously indicates, along with the camera, this is the back of the cell phone. Now, the obvious question would be, how is surveillance footage being displayed from the back of the cell phone? Okay, it's not, right? Well, once again, this means there has been editing. The only logical possibility here is that the screenshot was placed over the back of the cell phone. Now, why is all of this being done when you can just take the damn screenshot from the monitor in the office and submit that screenshot to the authorities? Oh, but they took a screenshot of the monitor displaying the time of 3:45 a.m. with that same footage being played. Yes, that was physically in the store, in front of the monitor. But if you notice, they didn't provide a similar screenshot of the very monitor. If you took a screenshot displaying the time in which you spotted the vehicle in surveillance, why not provide the same screenshot of this is just nonsense. The same so-called footage displaying the white vehicle is playing to the right side on the monitor. Just take another damn screenshot of that monitor. What the hell is all of this crap? See, this is the problem. And it's frustrating to the point I don't even want to continue with the examination, because that editing is most definitely affecting our ability to determine which vehicle it is. I will keep stopping to address that. If my colleagues want to try, they can.
I hear ya. That's completely unnecessary. Which makes us feel that it is a white Hyundai Elantra due to this strange activity. We're not focusing on the vehicle being examined based on zooming in. That's not the problem, really. It's how the screenshot was delivered to the public. This was not what the authorities obtained. Trust me. In fact, when reviewing surveillance on a monitor, you also have the ability to take screenshots from the system, frame by frame and all. Some may say, oh, the clerk that worked that night didn't know how to do that. Well, I'm sure the assistant manager knew how to do it. The assistant manager was not the one working that night, but they were the ones reviewing surveillance. and they are the ones who provided that screenshot of the monitor displaying the 3:45 a.m. time. Notice the difference in quality? The screenshot from the monitor is clear, all the numbers are visible, and even the video screen is clear. That's what we needed to see. But that crappy so-called screenshot of the white vehicle is not an actual screenshot. We broke this down, and many claimed it was a screenshot taken from outside the store through the window. No. What we are seeing is the back of a cell phone from what appears to be inside the store, with a transparent overlay of a screenshot of the surveillance from the fucking monitor. And this is why it looks like that. Why do all of that? Because that surveillance is key. Now let's try to get back to the examination. The body types are a bit different, but it's not conclusive with this angle. The front face is not conclusive. The hood and dashboard area is not conclusive. So let's look at the window trim and the back of the vehicle, since that provides the most visual confirmation. The window trims are similar. It's not conclusive neither. The Elantra's trim in the passenger window has a bit more slant to its design, while the Prius's trim is cut a bit more straight at the edge. But in surveillance, considering the angle of the vehicle, we can't really determine which one. The more you stare at it, you may conclude either or. But to be honest, it's not conclusive. Now the taillights, once again, not conclusive. On one end, it looks like the Prius's taillights, but then examining the Elantra's taillights, which come a bit further on the side, well, that also is a possibility. I will say, though, haven't seen too many Priuses with tinted windows. Although this is at night and blurry as hell, those do look like tinted windows. Elantras, on the other hand, are so-called tuned a bit more because they're sportier. The conclusion? No conclusion. That's what we have at this point. But then again, with a white Hyundai Elantra crashed and abandoned in Oregon after the murders, and that white vehicle being spotted in the gas station surveillance, appearing to come from Blaine Street where Taco Bell is located, the restaurant that the so-called private driver claimed they headed after dropping off the girls. I mean, we can't help but lean towards that vehicle being a white Hyundai Elantra, which would be the same white Hyundai Elantra crashed in Oregon. And of course, the rest of that theory was broken down in several episodes prior. So as a result, well, we would respectfully disagree. But there's always a possibility it is a Prius. Let's not overlook the screenshot release, though, since we had to address that. Remember, that screenshot released to the public is not what Moscow PD has, nor did they themselves release that. Why didn't Moscow PD release the screenshots of their copy of that surveillance? I mean, they claim to have over 8 hours of footage from that gas station, right? Yet, they were okay with some crappy, blurry, edited screenshot be released, basically on their behalf in the investigation. It's tacky, unprofessional, not the protocol in releasing evidence or information to the public about a suspect's vehicle. Unless, of course, they know that vehicle, which we assume is a white Hyundai Elantra, was not the same Elantra of the targeted individual. Okay, let's dig deeper here. Of course, based on the public's view, we assumed the screenshot was how they identified a white Hyundai Elantra, right? But behind closed doors, Moscow PD had reviewed the Linda Lane surveillance and spotted a, quote, light-colored vehicle circling the apartments. Stay with me here, because the nonsense is being weeded out. Now we know they didn't identify a white Hyundai Elantra in the Linda Lane surveillance. So, where does the white Hyundai Elantra come from? Oh, the gas station footage? Negative, not so fast. Quote, a bored gas station employee with an intuition may have given police a break in the case of 4 murdered University of Idaho students. An overnight assistant at the Mobil station on White Avenue and Highway 8 told DailyMail.com she may have spotted the white Hyundai Elantra that police believe is connected to the fatal stabbings speeding away from the scene. She said she spent days poring over surveillance footage from the night of November 13th before she spotted a white sedan traveling westbound on White Avenue at around 3:45 a.m. the night of the murder before turning down a side street. Investigators spent Tuesday morning pulling surveillance video from the Mobil station on White Avenue and Highway 8, taking full shifts worth of video from the fateful night. The overnight manager, who asked not to be named because the killer was still on the loose, said she couldn't see inside the vehicle from the footage, but told Daily Mail, quote, it could be the one that police are looking for. And based on Moscow PD's reaction to the footage, she said, quote, it definitely seems like it could be something, unquote. Do you know what this means? I think you do, but let's break it down. Moscow PD was searching for a white Hyundai Elantra before, that's right, before the gas station surveillance was publicly released. Now, if they couldn't determine which type of vehicle was spotted in the Linda Lane surveillance, where is the make and model coming from, which they are asking the public for help with? Hello, is this damn thing on? There are two possibilities, and they both lead to a bad ending for Moscow PD. The neighbor's camera footage, this would be how they identified a white Hyundai Elantra, but they never mentioned this camera, in which they identified the vehicle near the victim's home. No report has a white Hyundai Elantra reported as being spotted near the victim's home by that neighbor's camera. I repeat, this vehicle, specifically, was never reported as being spotted near the victim's home by that neighbor's camera. We know this is the key surveillance, but they won't even publicly report that's how they identified the suspect's vehicle. Okay, that's a bad ending for obvious reasons. The other scenario, which is just as bad, is from November 29th, my friends, where WSU campus police had spotted a white Hyundai Elantra in the campus apartments, which identified Kohberger. Yet how could they use this as a match when this vehicle is not linked to any fucking surveillance that they publicly identified as a white Hyundai Elantra with? What in the... You see what's happening here. Again, the gas station surveillance is a part of the public's assistance in spotting a white Hyundai Elantra. How are they searching for a specific vehicle if it hasn't been spotted yet? They identified Kohberger from his vehicle, so-called spotted on November 29th, and literally asked the public to help in searching for a white Hyundai Elantra that they couldn't publicly report they identified yet, based on no other video footage showing that vehicle. Are you following this madness? This is the frame blowing up in their faces. This is fucking insane.
Okay, don't lose your cool, my friend. Let me kind of chime in. There are two sources of physical evidence of a white Hyundai Elantra. We have the next-door neighbor's security camera, which could see all vehicles enter and exit that neighborhood. And we have WSU campus police spotting a white Hyundai Elantra on November 29th. Now, what my colleague is explaining, before the frustration takes over, is due to there not being any official report from Moscow PD that they identified a white Hyundai Elantra from the neighbor's camera. Then the other source of this identity has to come from November 29th. It's not coming from the gas station surveillance, because the gas station clerk was searching for that white Hyundai Elantra, which Moscow PD had already identified prior. But from where is the conundrum? It's not coming from the Linda Lane surveillance, because they themselves couldn't identify the vehicle in that footage. So there's only two options, like mentioned, and both are suspicious. The neighbor's camera as the source would mean Moscow PD identified a white Hyundai Elantra, but never publicly reported that they identified that vehicle from that camera. They were very vague in how they publicly reported on the vehicle, saying things like, quote, "The white Hyundai Elantra was spotted near the victim's home." They didn't say the white Hyundai Elantra was seen arriving in the victim's neighborhood early Sunday morning. You see, that indicates that the claim is based on surveillance footage from that neighborhood that spotted the vehicle. But when you say, quote, "near the victim's home," we can't determine if it's literally near the victim's home or in the vicinity of the victim's home. Okay, that may seem a bit picky to some, or even with the gas station surveillance, the media stated it was, quote, "seen speeding away from the scene of the crime." But here's the main point. If there was a white Hyundai Elantra spotted in the neighbor's camera by Moscow PD, they would simply provide a screenshot of that specific moment in that footage showing that vehicle. Again, the only footage that has been, quote, "officially released to the public" is that gas station surveillance. Now, why would Moscow PD use that screenshot of the alleged suspect's vehicle, but not from the camera footage, from the actual neighborhood they claim the vehicle was seen near? Well, there are several reasons why, but one of them is because that alleged vehicle being spotted conflicts with the time frame the alleged Kohberger was present. If Kohberger was there, trust me, that neighbor's camera footage would have been publicly released, instead of some screenshot leaked that is not as important as that so-called arrival of the killer's vehicle. You understand? But let's continue. I think my colleague has calmed down a bit now.
Oh, at this point, I'm just going to keep going. We're getting through this, my friend, even with the frustration. Because the frame is starting to really show itself. I'll repeat it again, to just blow this shit to smithereens. Moscow PD was searching for a white Hyundai Elantra with no video footage publicly reported to confirm even existed at the time. A gas station assistant manager viewed surveillance for hours, spotting a white vehicle speeding down White Avenue at 3:45 a.m. and stated that it was possibly the white Hyundai Elantra. Moscow PD and Idaho State Police, by the way, were looking for. How can she be looking for a white Hyundai Elantra that hadn't been identified anywhere yet? Let's just keep drilling this home. She can't be searching for a specific vehicle that doesn't exist anywhere yet. It's not from the Linda Lane surveillance, because Moscow PD couldn't identify the vehicle. Where else is a white Hyundai Elantra being spotted, which prompted Moscow PD to ask the public for help in searching for? It would have to be either the neighbor's camera footage, which they didn't publicly report was their source of that identity, or it would be from WSU campus police, who identified the white Hyundai Elantra on November 29th. Now, let's expose it even more. How in the fuck could WSU campus police be searching for a white Hyundai Elantra if that vehicle hadn't been identified yet? It's the same mystery with the gas station clerk. Neither one of them had a description of the vehicle based on no reports of the "I'm done." That's the biggest evidence of a frame. November 29th, yeah, that's how they identified the white Hyundai Elantra. Then, they pretended as if the gas station surveillance was the white Hyundai Elantra they were searching for, threw out some photos of a white Hyundai Elantra to show that's the vehicle in the gas station surveillance, and yet the gas station clerk was looking for the white Hyundai Elantra because Moscow PD had already identified the vehicle on November 29th. Frame. Okay, sorry. Let's make sure we're on the same page. Moscow PD never publicly stated that a white Hyundai Elantra was spotted by the neighbor's camera, which prompted them to ask for the public's help in finding. Now let's quote an article from Idaho Statesman's website. Quote, "The Moscow Police Department is seeking the public's help to speak with the occupant or occupants of a vehicle that was close to the King Road residence where 4 University of Idaho students were killed November 13th. Police say the occupants could have information related to the homicides. In a news release Wednesday, detectives said they want to speak with the person driving a white 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra and passengers if there were any. The license plate of the vehicle is unknown. The police department said it has received several tips to believe a white Hyundai Elantra was close to the King Road residence in the early morning hours of November 13th. Quote, "If you know of or own a vehicle matching this description, or know of anyone who may have been driving this vehicle on the days preceding or the day of the murders, please forward that information to the tip line," police said in the news release. Calls to the Moscow Police Department's tip line will be forwarded to an FBI call center. Unquote. Oh, the fuckery here is, it's uncanny. Do you see this shit? This article is referring to a report from Moscow PD on Wednesday, right? Going back to 2022, this was on, guess what date? December 7th. Now the 7th is the date that Batman gave Moscow PD a so-called list of Hyundai Elantras, right? Oh, but wait, one fucking minute. How are they receiving tips about a white Hyundai Elantra that they themselves didn't publicly identify as the make and model at this point? Oh, let me guess. Batman spotted the white Hyundai Elantra near the crime scene physically? I wouldn't put it past him. He seems to be everywhere, even the crime scene. Hey, get a load of this crap, don't want to smell it. But we have to endure the stench, and we dig deeper into that problem. How is Moscow PD pretending to just receive a so-called possible make and model of the white vehicle when they had already obtained a description of a white Hyundai Elantra on November 29th? Which begs the question once more. How could WSU campus police be looking for a white Hyundai Elantra if, based on this article and our previous breakdown, Moscow PD didn't identify a make and model until December 7th? And that confirmation is being confirmed by Batman, who claimed they stayed in Pullman on top of that. How could he know a white Hyundai Elantra was physically in Moscow driving around in that neighborhood? Based on his accounts, he dropped the girls off and went back home to Pullman, Washington, right? Yep, because Batman is a suspect. A major component of the frame, and I would even suggest the reason he identified Kohberger's vehicle, is because he was driving the white Hyundai Elantra spotted by the gas station surveillance. Batman pretends to be the private driver who submitted a list of white Hyundai Elantras, but it doesn't matter because Moscow PD had already gotten a white Hyundai Elantra in person identified by WSU campus police on November 29th. But see, when you have many crooked individuals squirming around, they can't even align everything up correctly. Batman was so eager to frame Kohberger, thinking that he's doing a, quote, good deed in searching for a white Hyundai Elantra, just fell on his face due to that vehicle already being identified by Moscow PD, who are in big trouble, my friends. Yep, they let the FBI take over because they were too afraid to do the right thing, and now everything has come crashing down on them. See, it's not going to be the FBI who takes the major hit. It's the local police department in the town the murders happened. The FBI will fall back into the shadows and say, hey man, we were trying to help you guys out. Looked like you guys had a hard time finding the killer. Now, don't go blaming us for framing Kohberger. That's on you. Yeah, they slither around like this every day. That's why you don't let the Alphabet Boys snoop all in your local affairs. You're trained and experienced law enforcement officers, but let the fear of the truth being exposed force you to step aside, and the Alphabet Boys do the work. Heck, may have done it to let them take the blame. We all know the FBI knows how to avoid being held accountable. There's your frame. I mean, what else do we have to expose here? We tried to tell everyone from the beginning Kohberger was framed, and we walked it down to the most damaging evidence of that, even more so than the so-called DNA. See, the frame started with individuals like Bonnie and Clyde, who frequent between Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. Bonnie and Clyde knew Kohberger had a white Hyundai Elantra, and apparently Clyde's brother also had a white Hyundai Elantra. They're drug pushers, easy to get some throwaway vehicle for a frame job. It was used to frame Kohberger, then dumped off in Oregon. Remember, Eugene PD never explained the details of the crash. Was the vehicle involved in a collision with another vehicle? No other vehicle was mentioned, because it's just like we suggested, the vehicle was just rammed into something, then abandoned. A quote, job injury crash suggests they were on a job call, lost focus on the road, and ran into a barricade. That wasn't described as the case. The so-called owner never stated this. The reason the vehicle gained national attention is due to the fact that it was the same make and model, crashed and abandoned. This is typical actions of a criminal fleeing the scene of a crime, either in a police chase, then crashes, or a vehicle used in a crime, then crashed and abandoned. Killers often do this, abandon the vehicle in another state, then come back to their home state and blend into society. It's only a matter of time before the vehicle is tracked back to them. But by that time, heck, they may even leave the country if they start feeling the heat. Now, some may suggest chaos. Don't you find Kohberger's travel to Pennsylvania a bit strange around December 15th, once a white Hyundai Elantra had been identified on December 7th? Well, it depends on how you're viewing everything. Kohberger would be the killer, viewed the news outlets, and his vehicle had been identified. Heads out of town before he could be arrested in Pullman. Sounds logical, but there are a few problems with that. For one, this was during Christmas break, and also at that time, he was basically already terminated at WSU, which also ended his funding for the PhD degree plan. So, well, Kohberger heads back to his hometown to reevaluate what he will do with his life. I mean, might as well go spend time with family, which he would probably do anyway during that Christmas break. But the main reason is Kohberger's vehicle was identified on November 29th, yet authorities pretended they didn't have a make and model throughout the time frame from the 29th to December 7th. And the biggest reason is that make and model hadn't been identified by any video footage prior to even prompt WSU campus police and Batman to search for it. If he was the killer, in retrospect, that neighbor's camera footage would have been revealed publicly. Again, there was a leak of that neighbor's camera footage with a time of 1:56 a.m. If they claim Kohberger was in that area from approximately 3:30 a.m. to 4:15 a.m., then just show the vehicle. The leak, in my opinion, is linked to Kaylee's sister. But if she claimed to view footage of Kaylee and Maddie being dropped off in that very footage, wouldn't she also spot Kohberger's vehicle as well? And of course, wouldn't she and the rest of the family want this to be shown to the public? Steve stated he wanted to make sure they had the right guy. Surely that footage would give them more concrete evidence around the time of the murders, right? Unless he was never there, or the other white Hyundai Elantra was there before Kohberger was alleged to be there, and left earlier as well. Someone spotted that vehicle crashed and abandoned, called the authorities, and how did this vehicle get connected to Moscow? Oh, someone just so happened to see it on the news. Or did Eugene PD feel it was necessary to inform Moscow and Idaho State Police about that vehicle? Let's assume it's the latter. They contact the owner of the vehicle, and get this. They report that she was in a, quote, job injury car accident. What in the flying fuck does job injury crash mean? It means the vehicle was speeding down White Avenue at 3:45 a.m., approximately 20 to 30 minutes after the housemates were murdered, hauled ass out of town, drove the vehicle all the way to Oregon, and just dumped it there. Remember, the initial report has the time of death occurring between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. That's a generalization, but it really means the murders occurred within the 3 a.m. hour. Of course, everything would end close to 4 a.m. That vehicle spotted in the gas station surveillance was spotted at 3:45 a.m., aligning with the time of death. There's your suspect. But of course, Bonnie's so-called DoorDash delivery and some TikTok evidence just disregards the speeding light bulb spotted in that gas station surveillance. Never mind it speeding at night around the time the housemates were being murdered or had already been murdered. Yeah, let's just forget that vehicle. Someone pointed the finger at Kohberger. WSU campus police took the so-called tip, collected the info, submitted to Moscow PD on November 29th, and the rest is history. To our audience, thanks for the challenge. It opened up more cans of maggots. This is the Chaos Sector.